Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming on. This is Mike Turnquist coming to you with our now monthly market report for Seventh Level Real Estate. This is October 2016. Pretty excited to be talking to you guys today. We have a lot to cover today, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. But as usual, we're going to give you guys some news and some pretty interesting news, in my opinion. We're going to give you guys all the updates that you've been asking for and a lot of graphs to go along with that. So feel free to ask in the comment box over to the side, and we'll get those answered during the Q&A. Okay, fantastic. All right, you guys all ready to go? There we go. Okay, now let's take a look at the news. All right, what everybody's dealing with right now is people taking a look at the last couple months' home reports, and we're seeing some interesting things here. Okay, home sales reports. Both the existing home sales report and the pending home sales report are saying, you know what? We're slipping a little bit. We just tied where we were last year, right? Is the market slowing down? Is it slowing down? We're getting more and more conversations about those lines, the shift in the market, what's going to happen. And there is no doubt that the existing sales reports came in weak last month. And there's no doubt that the pending home sales report is really not where we hope it would be right now. But we're still good. We're still as good as we were last year. I just think it's because demand is slowing up. I don't think it's because the market is slowing up. I think simply it's just because we just don't have enough inventory to sell. We'll go over that as we kind of go through the report. But, for all the naysayers out there that are going to start jumping on this bandwagon of, maybe this market's turning around, maybe we went too high, maybe we have another 2006 crash, are we heading into another recession? Check this out. Okay. All right. This is a graph from the Wall Street Journal survey, and it's more than 60 economists from July, August, and September. And what they asked the economists is what are the odds of the United States being in a recession over the next 12 months? What do people feel about that? Is it good? Is it not? What's going on here? Okay. All right. Is there more than a 50% chance that we will be entering in a recession? And as you can see, the percentage of economists that think that there will be more than a 50% chance has fallen each of the last 3 months. Okay. The economy is actually getting better, not weaker. That's a good thing, right? So I don't want to, have people jumping on that bandwagon. I want to make sure, when you talk to people like that, you kind of stop them and say, hey, well, that's not what's happening. And they'll probably say to you, well, shoot, look, that's a NAR report. That's a Mortgage Bankers Association report. They want to give us good news. Well, this is something from the Wall Street Journal, and it's a survey of more than 60 people to combat that with. Okay. All right. And Sean Bicchetti, chief economist from Freddie Mac, said this: the housing market remains a bright spot for the U.S. economy, with solid job gains and low mortgage interest rates sustaining the economy's momentum in September. You can see in most markets, low mortgage markets have been the offset of the rising home prices. So that helps out with home buyer affordability for the typical household. Homeowners are taking advantage of these low rates and the home price appreciation that is increasing their home equity. By that, he means it can be either refinancing or people now, as they're increasing the equity in their house, they can go ahead and consider selling that house and moving on, which means more inventory for us. And that's very, very, very important. Okay, so if we look at historic pending home sales, we can see that 100, that's that gray dotted line that goes across there, is at a healthy level. And we've been ahead of that healthy level for just about 2 years now. And we continue to be ahead of that healthy level. So I don't want anybody thinking that the last report was a bad report just because we're even where we were last year. what it was they're comparing to last year, and it seemed like it was some sort of weakness, right? But if we dive deeper into the report, check out something pretty interesting. Okay. All right. This is the pending home sales percentages year over year by region. All right. This is kind of important to take a look at this. I said the market as a whole, yeah, was down from last year and was down 0.2%. So let's consider that we're just about breaking even. But check this out. You look at the Northeast and it was up 5.9%. All right. Way different than any other region. So why was that? All right. Because there's still inventory in that Northeast region. If we take a look at the four sections of the country, you know, um, there's not as much inventory. Okay. The West, the South, and Midwest. Okay. The only section with good inventory is the Northeast. So what we've been talking about all along is that we had increased the listings where they were hoping the pending home sales and the existing home sales reports, and that would show nice increases over the last year. But that won't happen until we get to the rest of the areas where we have the same type of inventory. Okay. Why does the Northeast have that inventory? Well, one of the reasons is they have slower getting rid of that distressed property. Okay, the short sales and the foreclosures. There were many states in the Northeast that had judicial foreclosures, meaning they had to go to court in order to foreclose, and it really just strung out the whole process. And they're still clearing out some of their distressed property, but for the most part, the rest of the areas, rest of the country, has kind of already gone through it. But we have to make up for that distressed inventory across the whole country, right? And it's just letting people know that currently own a home, that have the ability to sell and maybe move up to their dream home, that it might be time to do that now. Okay. All right. So let's take a before, but again, let's take a look at the Northeast and we can see that home sales were fine there. But if we look at existing home prices, we can now see that the Northeast was down compared to the rest of the country. All right. So it's very simple, supply and demand. And this just shows an example that we can use and apply here. Okay. Because there was a lot of listings and a lot of inventory in the Northeast, what winds up taking place is they had a lot more sales, like from the last graph. So prices didn't go up as much. But take a look at the areas. Even when sales were down, prices went up dramatically. Why was that? It's very simple, very, very simple. There wasn't inventory there. The buyers were fighting over the limited supply that's there. And that can be quantified by this graph. Okay. Here's the housing supply year over year. How many listings do we see compared to how many we had 12 months ago? And we can see for the last 12 months, the number is down compared to where it was. In August last month, we had from these numbers, we were down over 10% in our housing supply. We have more and more demand, yet we have less and less inventory than we had last year. So what that means, in fact, is we definitely need more listings to come on the market to feed this buyer demand that is continuing to be ongoing. Okay. All right. So Trulia, one of the major players in the online listing portals, just came out with a report that looked like this. Okay. All homes, the number of homes for sale. Okay. The third quarter of 2015 compared to the third quarter of 2016. And we could take a look at the left-hand column, and it's all homes, even starter homes. So that's the bottom 1/3. We're down. Okay. Trade-up homes, we're down. And even premium homes, the top 1/3 of the market, we're down. So what you can see is across the board, starter homes, trade-up homes, and premiums homes, we really need more inventory. The supply is constrained. Now, on some of your upper end, you may have more. We may have more than enough listings, but what we're going to talk about that in a second, and especially in the upper price range of those upper price ranges. Okay, basically the biggest challenges in the industry we're facing right now as we as realtors, the real estate professionals across the country, we have to find the people looking to sell and make sure to let them know that it's safe to sell now and that they will find the home of their dreams, because we're not getting a lot of help from single family homes, new construction, and whatnot. Okay. Now, we can see that compared to just not the boom years of 2002 and 2006, if we go all the way back to 1985, we have less new construction now than we did going back 30 years. Okay, so we're not building enough new homes historically. Okay, because if mortgage rates continue to remain relatively low, job growth continues, and as most forecasters expect, the home purchases are likely to rise in the coming year. Okay, this is from CoreLogic here. All right, as a matter of fact, both the National Association of Realtors, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the Mortgage Bankers Association all are projecting that single-family home sales will be up. And in some cases, their suggestions vary dramatically over where we were this year. If that's where they believe demand is going to be, we'll hopefully do a good job creating some ample supply. Now, why are they so buoyant on that? All right, because people are starting to move out of their parents' basements. Okay, this is pretty interesting. Average household formation. This was fun to research. Okay, has been its best in the last 40 years. So back in the 70s, we averaged over 1 million household formations, actually more than 1.5 million household formations, and that number dropped pretty dramatically in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and even from 2010 to 2014. Okay, but for the next 10 years, the forecast will be that more household formations, more than any other time in the last 40 years. Okay, now some of the people are going to rent, and there's no question as far as that's concerned. But there's going to be a high percentage of people right now, and let's say that's over 60%, they're going to actually go and purchase a home. All right. So as household formations increase, the demand for houses that people can purchase, single family residences, that those people can purchase, and that is going to increase. And we have to make sure we're able to meet that demand. And I am definitely not the only one saying that. Okay. Healthy labor markets in most of the country should be creating a sustained demand for home purchases. However, there's no question that after peaking in June, sales in the majority of the country have inched backwards because inventory isn't picking up. To tame price growth and replace what's being quickly sold. Okay, that's NAR's chief, Lawrence Yun. Okay, inventory isn't picking up. So it's my responsibility to show you that demand will continue to be there for quite some time. And we hopefully we can meet that demand with an ample supply. And again, President of CoreLogic, we see home prices rising another 5% in the coming year based upon the latest projected national CoreLogic home price index. Assuming this growth is uniform across the U.S., that should release an additional 700,000 homes from the scourge of negative equity. Okay, and in California, you can kind of assume that appreciation will be a little bit higher than the national average. Okay, as prices go up, and I want you to understand, prices are going up, more and more people are coming out of negative equity into positive equity. All right. So what does that mean? That means that they can now sell their house without bringing cash into the table. The challenge is most people don't even realize that. So let's take a look at what we call significant equity. All right. The number of houses in the country that have more than 20% equity. That's what we deem significant equity. That means they can definitely sell their house without bringing cash to the table to purchase the next house. Well, that 20% number is pretty big. All right, but here's the challenge. 72.6% of the houses with a mortgage and 30% of houses around don't even have a mortgage on it, which is kind of surprising to hear. They have 100% equity, but 72.6% of the houses in the country have more than 20% equity. But only 37% of the homeowners realize this. Okay, that is why we're working really, really, really hard to educate you about how much equity you may have in your house and let you know that if you do want to sell and you have enough money to get to the closing and move on and purchase that next house. Okay, so let's talk about purchasing the next house for just a second here. I understand that in this market, there's a lot of uncertainty. And we hear this all the time, that if I sell my house, will I be able to find another house? And I know that uncertainty creates fear. So let's talk about that. Let me give you two little tidbits that can kind of help you understand that. Because I know that there are some homeowners in our marketplace, they would love to sell, but they're afraid of getting caught without a house, without a roof over their head, being homeless, because we know that the rental market isn't helping them out either. They may not be able to find a temporary rental in that space. Okay. So, first off, I want to let everybody know that usually the dominoes in home sales fall from left to right, meaning there's a first-time home buyer that comes into the market. They buy a house from a first-time home seller, right? Then the first-time home seller now buys the next house. The seller of that house that they just purchased now buys the next house, and the dominoes fall price-wise from least to most. So those dominoes fall from left to right. Make sense? Okay. However, in any market, we should not be looking at it, not at what usually happens, especially today, right? Because the market is so different where it's been in the past, but we have to look at the impact of the monthly housing inventory on prices. Okay. All right, here's your basic graph of supply and demand, seller's market, neutral market. Okay, you have to take a look at the price points. All right, and I would break it down to the bottom 1/3. We got a tale of three markets here. All right, what's the median price point on the bottom 1/3 of the houses, the median price point in the middle section of homes, and then that of the upper. Okay, that's your premium home. What are the average months in each of those markets? All right, what's the average months of homes under 400,000? What's a move up home? And locally here, I'd consider that 400 to say 700,000. And what's a premium home in our market? That's 700K and plus. And take a look at that month's inventory. And here's what you find. In the startup and the move up market, you're going to see homes that have less than 6 months inventory. You're going to see segments of the market that have 1 to 2 months of inventory. And it's very, very low, well below that 6 month threshold that kind of creates the neutral market. All right. We need listings in that low end of the market. There's no question about that. But some of those sellers are afraid to put their house on the market, because if you go to the premium homes, the top 1/3 of the market, I think you're going to see that we're going to have greater than 7 months in there. And that's a buyer's market, and that's in the tip top, right, where we have an increased market of luxury homes to sell. Okay, we often we definitely have those conversations with those sellers and say, hey, you got to get your prices right in order to sell. So if we go into the marketplace and we're looking at the upper end and we have 8 or 9 months inventory in certain segments in that upper end, we will let them know that they get a little realistic with their price in order to sell it. But not everybody's going to listen to us. Okay. They all don't listen to us. I understand that. But the people that are compelled to sell, they're going to listen to us. And the people that really want to sell the house, well, they're going to have open ears. And if we want them to get that household, if we want it selling, the price has to be compelling. Just like they're compelled to sell, they have to get the price that's compelling, so that so compelling, right, that a buyer has to buy it. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Because now we're not doing the dominoes from the left or right, waiting for the first time home buyer, letting the dominoes fall from the lowest price to the highest price. We're actually reversing those dominoes. And you're getting such a good price on the premium home that the trade up home seller, one that didn't really want to put his house on the market because they weren't sure they could find something, would be compelled to put their house on the market below that. And they can't miss the deal on the listing that just had the price adjustment. Does that make sense? So if we get people to buy up, their home that's less is almost more guaranteed to sell in certain segments of the market. Thus is going to reverse the domino flow and help bring out the inventory. Okay. So are sellers trading up? Are they trading down? What are they doing? All right. So we wanted to know, We looked at NAR for this. Okay, we have 2005, the orange bars, and 2010 are the light blue bars, and 2015 are the dark blue bars here. Okay, what you can see is the same size, people moving from one house to the same size house, and that number has remained pretty constant over the last 10 years, 28, 28, 27. Okay. However, the people trading down is increasing. So that seems a little different, right? So what exactly does that mean? And what that means, in fact, that people in the market right now that could make the trade, that do have cash in their pockets, they're trading down, and there's a good chance they're going to sell their house, buy the next house. Maybe they had a 4-bedroom craftsman, for say. Maybe they had 4 children, and they all graduated college, moved back into them, so they kept the 4-bedroom. But now all the kids are out. They got a job. They got married. They're forming their own households. They're either in a rental or if they've purchased a home on their own. Now, this couple doesn't need a 4-bedroom craftsman anymore. Those people are what has always been known as empty nesters. And surprisingly enough, I know a few of them that this has just happened to them. Okay. These people are, we can help them find the house that they move into. And it is more into what they're looking to do right now. Okay. Instead of having that big empty house. And with that extra cash, they might be looking to purchase a vacation home that they could rent out because they might not be able to pay the total mortgage on it every month. So it helps them out there. They might want to rent it out during the season. Say it's up in the mountains for ski season, rent it out, or if it's down on the water during the summer months. A lot of flexibility here in California for sure. Rent it out, get some of the mortgage payments back as a rental, a seasonal rental, and they keep it as a house, either as a family vacation home or later on as a retirement home. So we can help people kind of make those right decisions. All right, contingency offers. Okay. Another thing that's going on that I want you to kind of continue is the contingency offer. Okay. Well, you might say, hey, Mike, listen, we don't have to worry about that right now. Okay. Nobody's worried about if somebody's buying a house that they still have a house to sell and if that house is going to sell. It's kind of the other way around. Okay. We know it's going to sell. We don't need contingency offers. And just a few years ago, we had plenty of them. Well, there are a lot of buyers out there. We had 9, 10 months inventory. Sellers were saying, listen, you want to buy my house. I'll give you some time to sell your house, but let's get this in contract and I'll give you some extra time. There was no challenge in the market back then, and we did that. We did a lot of that. Well, we have the same challenge, but we need to be a little patient, but on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I think this is going to help out a lot. Maybe what we should do is allow the sellers extra time to find their house. Okay. Meaning the buyer puts their house in contract, but instead of closing in 45, 60 days, we give that seller 120 days to close. And that gives the seller more time to go out and find a house, or maybe it might even be the contingency of them going out and finding another house. So we're going to close in 90 days as long as you find another house, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, right? Does that make sense? So why would a buyer do that? Why would they lock themselves up in something like that? Well, because there are so few listings in a market where buyers just can't find another house that they even like. A home that they love could be an absolute oasis, even if there is that contingency. So I want people to just kind of open up their minds and see what really will help drive the market and help both buyers and sellers get where they want to be. If the seller wants to sell the house, but they're afraid, if the buyer wants to buy that house, well, let's give the seller a little bit extra time to find the house that they want. And everybody both gets what they want. And what scares me is fewer and fewer people, home ownership rate from a percentage is going down. Okay. And we're trying to prevent that. So what does that mean? All right. We took a look at apartmentlist.com. So they list apartments and they commented on this. Okay. Our research indicates that not owning a home has a sizable financial cost as renters miss out on low mortgage rates and are hit by higher and higher rents. This phenomenon has caused inequality in our society, And as those wealthy enough to invest in real estate benefit from the lower interest rates, whereas minorities, younger Americans, hit by rising rents and student debt, risk being locked out of home ownership. Okay, and that's what we're talking about here. They're locked out of home ownership. We have to generate listings in the inventory so that they can purchase them. All right. The longer they stay in the rental, the higher their rents go, the less chance they have. And let's quantify that for a second. If young people bought a house at the beginning of the year, right? Let's just use the national average. I tell you, or the median price in the country. Okay. All right, at 250,000. Okay, I took the median price across the country, and take a look at where they would be from an equity standpoint. Okay, actually, just from an appreciation standpoint, from now until January 2021. All right, and we have used price appreciation projection by over 100 experts, and they are surveyed in that home expectation price survey that we talked about on our last market update. Okay, this is what the experts are saying is going to happen to the prices. Look at the potential wealth that they've built for over 5 years. It's over $46,000. Okay, and if you calculate that to California numbers and just kind of adjust up, it's even greater. Okay, so it's a good example of that. How much does that be going to them if they had a rental over those 5 years? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. And what we do is just not list and sell houses for a living in my industry, but we change people's lives. Okay. We enable people to make their dreams come true and gaining equity, let's say in this example, over the last 5 years. That's pretty cool. All right. So it's fascinating to see how home ownership benefits people. So here's an interesting stat from How Housing Matters. Don't know why I can't say that. Okay. They looked at the first-time home buyers saving for a down payment and those not saving for a down payment. And one thing I like to talk about is, well, can you outsave this market? Okay, if the market's appreciating at 9%, or let's say the average of 3%, can you save more for a down payment than the market is going to appreciate? And combine that mortgage interest rates to tell you whether or not you should wait or not. Okay, anyway, but this talks about the savings rate, and it's almost double, meaning people who even have the vision and the goal of owning a home, okay, put away twice as much money as people that don't have that goal. And this is profound. Okay, there are a lot of things that home ownership brings to these communities, and home ownership provides social benefits beyond pure financial benefits here. Okay. All right. So digging around doing the research for this, and I found this absolutely fascinating. Doesn't necessarily surprise me, but it just fascinates me. Okay. So let's take a step back into your high school social studies class. All right. We all been there. We all remember this. Okay. Research on the subject was found that all other things being equal, children of homeowners, number one, do better in school, achieve higher test scores, and exhibit less antisocial behavior, have lower drug usage rates, and number three, commit less crimes. Amazing. Okay. Young people that grow up in a situation with home ownership, they're in a different place than the people who are not. Now, I'm not going to say that every renter's kid is not going to do well in school. If you're a renter, your kid's going to have a drug problem and they're going to commit crimes. That's not at all what I'm saying. Okay. But what I'm saying is the stability of owning a home and everything that it brings helps give kids an advantage. And it simply permeates into these statistics. I found this just fascinating. Okay. Homeowners are more likely to be involved in a community, right? Studies show this. Academic studies have shown this. Okay, civic engagements, local elections, and volunteer work compared to renters, again, with all other things being equal. That not only makes sense, right? But we used to call that pride of ownership. If you own a house in a neighborhood, you just care about that house more than if you're going to be renting it and moving on to the next neighborhood or the next city in the next couple of years. You get more involved because you're putting roots down there. Another recent study from the Boston Federal Reserve found the income of homeowners' children rises if home values rise, speculating that housing equity permits more human capital investment. Okay, so and I've said this before, people who own homes have equity that they can tap into at a later time. Perhaps, let's say, when their teenage children decide to say, "Hey, I'm going to go to college," and I always make this joke, right? We're we were hoping to get accepted into the best state school, but the stupid kid got accepted to Duke instead. Right? Doesn't that happen? So now instead of us paying $20,000 a year in tuition, we're going to pay $50,000 in tuition. Well, people that are homeowners can now help their kids out with that. All right? They can take a look at the kid in the eye and go, "Are you worth that investment?" Right? Is it worth me taking money out of my house to invest in you? And for a lot of parents that I know personally, that answer has been yes. And that's what this exact study from the Boston Federal Reserve shows. Homeowners' children, the income on homeowners' children rises as values rise, right? The more they're able to invest in their kids, the better future their kids have. All right, so that's the news for the month. Let's kind of quickly go through the updates because we want to get to some questions. And okay, let's start off with sales. So sales numbers. All right, average days on market by state are still looking really, really good. You can see a couple of yellow states there, but days on market are in California up to 30 days, which is really fast. And I think locally here in SLO County, they vary obviously from price range to price range, but anything under that $400,000 mark is probably going to have between 14 and 21 days of on the market. Okay, existing home sales since January 2012. We can see outside of January 2014, we've created a little bit. All right, we've been slowly moving the numbers up, which is good news. Okay, if we look at just from 2014, we can see that we've done a great job. So existing home sales over year. All right, existing home sales in thousands from 2015 to 2016 so far. You can see we dropped a little bit. Okay, new home sales in the thousands. Here's the good news: 2015 to 2016. You can see that number is rising, and that's definitely going to help us with our inventory. We need new construction. Okay, new home sales annualized in the thousands. Like I said, thank goodness we're getting more and more new home sales. There's more and more construction being done. You can see it. Drive down the freeway, drive down the 101. You're going to start to see the billboards, the flags. Okay, but we're still below numbers that I showed you earlier. Okay, well below our national numbers and our historic numbers where I think we should be. Okay, the good news is that the houses being built in the lower price range are starting to creep up. And that's exactly where we need inventory. Not all of the new construction is super expensive luxury homes. Okay. All right. We need it for that first time home buyer, and the builders are starting to catch up on that. Okay. New homes definitely sell fast as well. Okay. All right, pending home sales. As we showed you a little bit earlier, we're just about where we were last year, and it's not the demand, it's the lack of inventory that's slowing us up on that. Okay, pending home sales since 2012, 14, and you can see we cratered at the beginning of 14, but have come back strong since then. And since over the last 2 years, we're well above the historical healthy level. There it is. There it is. Okay, this is showing that going back to January 2014, I'll show you a more recent graph, and we can see that it's been building since then, pending home sales year over year. right? All right. So we talked about this. I keep coming back to this, but we talked about it earlier. Why is the Northeast ahead of everybody else? They have more inventory. We talked about the rest of the country's gotten through their distressed property, and here's a perfect example of that. Okay. January 2012, 35%, more than one out of every three houses sold was a distressed property. I think it felt a lot higher than that. Maybe I'm thinking of before 2012. It seemed like every property was a distressed property, but today less than 1 in 20 is a distressed property. Okay, so that's good. All right. Let's take a look at home prices regionally year over year. You can see we're in the West. We've gone up 9.2%. That's about right for California. In certain price ranges, it might have gone up to, say, 11 or 12%. Okay. All right. And you can see percent in change in sales from last year determined by the price range. Okay. And you can see the lower end is just falling off the face of the planet, right? There's just not enough inventory. Okay. All right. Case-Shiller pricing looks like that's leveling off, as a matter of fact, for the first time in a while, and it is starting to slow up. That doesn't mean that we're going to see depreciation. What that means is the level of appreciation. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. The percentage of appreciation is going to slow, and we're starting to see that happen as we speak. Okay. Forecasted year over year, percent change in price. Okay. According to CoreLogic, they do a lot of great research here, is that next year, we're going to see over the next 12 months, we're going to see about a 5.4 percent increase in California, 9.4. So pretty still good appreciating market next year. Okay. All right. And let me kind of go back to that. So wanted to talk about this. This is a great map. Say if you are doing relocation, okay? If you are, say you got somebody in Pennsylvania looking to move out here, okay? Should they make that move? Because property is going to appreciate by less than 5%, where in California it's going to appreciate by more than 9%. Right? So same things, New York to Florida, Jersey to Florida. You can kind of use this graph to kind of help chart that move and kind of pencil it out a little bit. So when we have relocation clients come to us, this is some of the statistics that we definitely look at. All right, here's a fun one. All right, appraisal home values compared to the homeowner estimates. This in a highly appreciating market becomes very difficult when we're dealing with appraisal issues during the loan process. Okay, now we're off for about 12 straight months. Check this out. This means properties are not appraising where the buyers are willing to pay for them. Okay, meaning that the appraiser doesn't think the house is worth as much as the homeowner thinks it's worth, and sometimes it's more than 1.5% difference, which can make or break a real estate transaction for sure. So, all right, let's talk about housing inventory. Well, shoot, we've been talking about it this whole time almost anyway. Okay, if we take a look at this month's inventory of homes for sale from 2011 to today, we can see that it absolutely dropped like a rock. Okay, we can even take a look at it and remember where we want to be is between 6 and 7 months for that neutral balanced market, and we can go all the way back to September 2014, and you can see we haven't even hit 5.5 months. Never mind 6 months. I mean, so inventory has been constrained for quite some time. And if we take a look over the last 12 months, we're up a little bit from where we were in December, January, February, March of last year, but just a little bit. Okay, we're still well below that mark. Okay, and this is going back all the way 3 years. Check that out. I mean, that says a lot right there. Housing supply, which we showed you a little earlier, is about 10% down from where it was last year. New inventory, new home inventory, also down. all right, compared to last year. The good news is that the new homes are selling and they sell fast. Okay. We're selling more and more new homes and they're finally getting the pricing right. Okay. So that's really good. All right. Buyer demand. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that. You can see across the country, it's either strong or very strong. There's a couple of states that you see that got weak, but they got some some things going on there. But here, what we really care about, California, where are we at in California? Buyer demand is very, very strong. Okay, foot traffic. Foot traffic is a little bit off. There's no question about that. But whether we look at it going all the way back to 2013, we're pretty good. Okay, so if we look at it over just the last 12 months, right? And that this can help us indicate, future sales here, or we can compare 2015 to 2016. Now, remember, foot traffic, that's the measure of how many people go into houses to look at homes. Okay. It's not that it's a demand, the demand isn't there. Okay. It's not that people don't want to do that. What's taking place right now is there are less homes for them to go into, which means what? We need more inventory. Okay. In a very big way, we definitely need more listing inventory. Okay. And great news as far as interest rates are concerned, they're still looking very good. Okay, look at where they've been since the beginning of the year, and this is what's helping out with the affordability and keeping the buyer demand high. They've dropped over, if we since the beginning of the year, they dropped over a half a point. I mean, this is ridiculously cheap. In my opinion, almost free money. Where can you make an investment? You can't buy stocks and bonds with no money down, right? So this is good money. Okay, so 3.42, and they're looking pretty strong. Okay, so even where do we think they're going to go? All right, we do have projections that they're going to go up over the next few quarters, but we're still in pretty good shape. So if you check out the averages of where we think they'll be, over the third quarter in 2017, they're still the average, projection is under 4%. Fantastic. We are in great shape as far as interest rates go. All right. So we're in for another strong year, and more people forming households. Interest rates going to be low. If we can get the inventory up, and we can get those people to not sign leases, but to purchase contracts for sale, and that's better for the economy. It's better for us, and most importantly, it is definitely better for them. So, unfortunately, rates will increase, and you can kind of see that where they are kind of projected to go there. So let's talk a little bit about credit availability. So it's up since April 2013. Sorry. And we showed you this graph last time, and it keeps on rising. Okay, so we're in good shape. Are we headed back to a 2006? People are going to say that to you, but if you take a look at 2006, that number is in the stratosphere, where we are increasing mortgage availability, but it's nowhere near the fog and mirror kind of loans you could get in 2006. Okay, so, and we're going to give this to you every single month. Here's another one. Average days of close have kind of gone down. So what happened in November and December, January, we had those new TRID laws kind of throwing the processes in of the lenders kind of in a tizzy, but we've kind of recovered that. But you won't see too much difference. We're talking 50 to 46 days, so it's not a huge difference. Okay, so all right, FICO score requirements. Here we go. Ellie Mae has actually reported on this. So it's that many people, they actually believe they need a higher FICO score than they really do to get a house. Okay, they can, and they can get a loan. Okay, so you can see here's the distribution here. All right, most people think they need a 750 or they need a 780, but more than half the loans, 53.9%, had a FICO score written between 600 and 750, more than half. Okay. All right, here's the average FICO score by loan type. Here you can see FHA, pretty lenient on its. So you don't need a 700 credit score for an FHA type loan. Okay, and the average back end debt ratios here really quickly between the two types of loans. Again, FHA, a little more lenient on how much debt you have. Okay, so like I said, we do this every month. We're gonna, you like, where the heck did you get all this data? Where'd you pull it out from? So we kind of have a list of where we pulled our resources and our data from, so that you guys, if you want to check it out and find out where we got our information of, that's pretty powerful here. So we're gonna give these to you guys every single month. Okay. All right, so check this out. This is what I found on Google. All right, Google did a joint study with the NAR, National Association of Realtors, just a couple months ago, and they found this. Check it out. According to Google, 2 out of 3 people searching for a prospective agent research them extensively online prior to working with them. Extensively online. Okay, so we want to make sure that you guys, and this is one of the main reasons we're doing a lot of this content right now, is to just make sure you guys are looking at the information and you're feeling good about being knowledgeable in the market. We want to build that trust with you guys so that you guys are comfortable taking what we have and doing business with us and just being educated in the market. Okay. All right. To put it another way, is Guy Kawasaki said, okay, value comes in the form of information and assistance. You want to establish a position where people see through your social media efforts and you know what you're doing is helpful. The point is to make yourself useful and value, to build credibility, and to build trust. So that's what we're doing here every single month. Okay. We are trying to show you things about the market, and lately that the market is coming on strong. Check out the total single family home sales this year and what the projections are going through 2017 by the big dogs here: NAR, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the Mortgage Bankers Association. These are people who definitely know what they're talking about. I want you to know out there that according to these 4 major entities, the market is strong and is going to get stronger. But I don't just want to talk about the money part of it. So we give you a couple slides about the importance of children, home ownership to children. We talked about communities and how the homeowners volunteer more, and it just means a lot to us. So keep that different take in mind when you're thinking about real estate. Okay, and remember, recent study: Boston Federal Reserve, children's income, children's homeowners, children of homeowners, let's say, and let's put that out there. So let's remember what home ownership is to us. It is not necessarily about the money. Okay, it's about so much more than that, right? I hope that the mass majority of people here, it's not just about the money. I know you have to keep a roof over your family's head and you got to put food on your family's table, but I hope that the people here watching this webinar it's not just about the money. It's also a mission in what we do. And I hope and I pray that we're out there helping people realize what we can do in the market. Okay, it's very important. And that's why these monthly updates are important. And in our industry here, it's pretty simple. The more you learn, the better your life can be, right? And we live in a great world, and I have a pretty great job. Okay, so let's take some questions here. See if anybody's got any questions in the chat. Oh. Okay, one of them says, Mike, you talk a lot about some national statistics. How can those be applied to our local market? I touched base a little bit on that. So from time to time, I will project those market statistics over to from the national over to the state and the local level. But California, rises and falls a little bit faster and slower than a little bit faster, more aggressively than the rest of the state. So typical inventory levels are a little bit lower than everyone else, and appreciation levels are a little bit lower. But we still have a high demand. High demand. Okay. All right. Yeah, look, you guys aren't asking a whole lot of questions, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to be back here next month, and you guys can always email or call any personal questions. So I want to put an offer out there. We got a lot more statistics for you guys in our fall buyer and seller guides. So let me put these up here. I'm going to do the home buyer guide first, and we're giving these away free. So there's your button right now. So go ahead, feel free to download that. And in the replay of the video, or if you're checking this out on YouTube, we will have the links for these underneath. Okay, so be sure to download these. These are fantastic. And let me give you guys the link for the home sellers guide. There you go. Feel free to click on that download button. Check those out for sure. A lot of great information there. And as always, it has been a pleasure speaking with you guys for the last 51 minutes and 18 seconds. Thanks for taking the time out of the day to come check this out. And if we can be of any service to you, please call us at 805-591-8107 and have yourself a fantastic day.